And just tell us about the Age of Rebellion stamps that you've been involved in.
Well, this was a commission from the marvellous people at Isle of Man Post Office, who produce, as you see here, fantastic pieces of art they are, actually. I was commissioned, along with the artist Peter Davies, to talk about the Ilium Done period, the mid-17th century, when the island was actually at war with England, effectively, and the things that went on are just hair-raising.
Incredible. And it's so important to keep those stories, as we were saying at the start of the show, alive, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I don't think, dare I say, enough Manx history is taught in the schools. They're doing curriculum, there isn't always the room. But the story of Ilium Done and his cousin Edward Christian, and the famine that was happening on the Isle of Man, and the outrageous things that were going on, it's just the most exciting period of Manx history. Even now we've got Brexit. It was even more exciting than that.
And the booklet is beautiful because you've got all the stamps in, which are so wonderfully designed. There's lovely artwork all the way through it.
Yes.
But these little elements of those stories that are included, so you can read about these incredible times.
Well, I've tried to get the whole story in because it wasn't just Ilium Done. The poor old Earl of Derby, the seventh Earl, was deeply unpopular. He was putting in taxes, he was doing away with the rights of the Manx people, and we were rebelling. There were riots, and there was a famine on before that, and there was an order put out that the wealthy people, the people in the farms, were not allowed to eat on a Wednesday and a Friday, and they had to put the food they would have eaten at their gateposts for the poor to eat. You can imagine what the Isle of Man was like at that time. And the old Earl was not really very interested in any of this, and of course when Charles I was executed and the parliamentarians started to try and invade the Isle of Man, he went off to fight, lost his head, and the parliamentary navy was in the bay within 10 days. 44 warships took over the Isle of Man, and for a good period we were under parliamentary rule. And it all worked out in the end, except that Ilium Done was executed after all for treason. So a pretty hairy time.
And we mentioned Milntown at the start of the show because Ilium Done has a connection to there.
He was born at Milntown in 1608. He'd moved to Castletown by the time the rebellion started, but his family was still living there. And on the day the Isle of Man was surrendered to the parliamentarians, they all had breakfast in Milntown. His father and his brother-in-law walked into Ramsey and surrendered the Isle of Man at that point. So it is a key place for the Christian family.